One, the premier of this province flat out lied last week to the media after he made his, I stood shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister on the Emergencies Act thing. He was asked, had he been requested to show up? He said no. That's not true, because according to the committee, from September 19th and on, numerous times, the Premier and the acting Solicitor General at the time, Sylvia Jones, were asked to voluntarily show up and testify. So what he said last week was not true, and he was pretty brazen about that. Secondly, to not show up to question period yesterday, if you can't take question period on this topic in Ontario, you're going to get eaten alive in front of that commission. That was a cowardly move yesterday by our Minister of Health and our Premier. And I don't think we'll see them there today, Tammy. I got to be honest with you. If you can't take that yesterday, you're probably not showing up today. And I know that personally because, and not many people know this, we've had an open invitation for this Premier to show up in studio or on Zoom at any time since January of this year to talk to myself, Dina, or anyone else involved with the show. Feathers, crickets. If he's afraid of us, he wants nothing to do with that committee. That's a fact. One last thing on our Premier. One of the things he really doesn't want to do is have a long-form discussion with anyone with cameras rolling. Because right now he lives in a world, and a lot of our politicians do, to be fair, when you face the media, it's one question and a follow. Remember the days, Tammy, where you can follow up with a question with a politician, when you can have a long-form interview? Right now, Doug Ford lives in the world, and a lot of politicians do, of one question and a follow-up. That has hurt our democracy, and if he goes to that commission in Ottawa, he's going to sit there for 7 to 8 hours, unfiltered, with cameras rolling. That is Doug Ford's nightmare. That is his campaign manager's nightmare. He does not want to do that. It is an insult to anyone in this province that anyone who runs for public office does not want to deal with the things that come with public office. If the Prime Minister is going to have to testify, if our Minister of Public Safety, if the former police chief in Ottawa, if the outgoing mayor in Ottawa all have to testify about those protests, Doug Ford in his province has to testify, because the question is, was it justified in enacting that Emergencies Act? We don't know what's happening in Ontario before we get to that final answer. This is outrageous to me that he's doing this. This is outrageous. He's not going to get his way. His butt's going to be in that seat at some point in front of that commission. And the more he fights this, the worse it looks. Go ahead, Tam. Forgive me.
Just to give you some context as well, he's fighting it and saying that there is parliamentary privilege. So basically that doesn't compel MPPs or anyone in politics to testify if, in fact, they are within a sitting. It doesn't compel them to do so in a proceeding where the legislature is in session at the moment, or 40 days before and after a session. And so this is something that's going to be argued there on their side. Yep. They want to be able to conduct business and have that privilege as well, so that they don't have to, you know.
That's what they're arguing.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out next Tuesday.